Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we're going to be breaking down the controversial disqualifications that happened this weekend at the North American International Championships. I guess it wouldn't be an NAIC at this point if there wasn't a DQ for us to talk about the week after. We'll be going over the results from the North American International Championships. It was definitely a very interesting tournament with some pretty interesting results. We'll break down and give our thoughts on all of that. We will, of course, have Guess That Flavor Text, everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. And then we're going to go over the announcement of the World's Tournament Structure. Pokemon just put out a release on the website talking about the tournament structure for the upcoming World Championships. We'll give our thoughts and opinions on that from a player's perspective, from a fan of the game's perspective, all of those things. And then, of course, we will also have our weekly bonus episode over on the Patreon. If you want to get a little bit of extra content from myself and Azul, where we hang out, we answer questions from our Patreons and also just discuss whatever else every single week. Be sure to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/uncommon energy podcast. My name is Chip Ritchie, joined here, as always, by my friend and co-host, Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing, buddy? How was your trip to New Orleans?
It was pretty good. It was a ton of fun. I actually like New Orleans quite a bit. I mean, I don't get to do too much besides actually playing the event, but like besides food, right? Like it's like Pokemon and food, and that's about it. And the food there was pretty good. From everything I got to try, I didn't get to try that much because I did leave pretty early. I went back Saturday morning because I didn't quite make it into day two.
Yeah.
Played
Saturday
Gardevoir
would
with
have
the
been a
rest
great
of.
day to, go see the city, do whatever else.
Yeah, but I want to get back and, like, stream the finals. I potentially was gonna stream, like, top 8, top 4 as well. Didn't get back in time quite to do that, but got back a little bit earlier. Got a lot of my, like, chores and errands taken care of, laundry, all that stuff to free me up to just jump into it on Sunday with the streaming and then get back into it this week, as well. And, man, I have somewhere else I was gonna go with that as well. But, yeah, played Gardevoir with the rest of the crew. I didn't do great, like I said, I didn't make day 2, but, Nucci had a, 801 start going into day 2. Things kinda fell apart. He said he didn't play great, and then Grant ended up top 16. So an alright showing from the squad, and, yeah, I mean, we'll get into it later. We played Gardevoir. There was a lot of Gardevoir
Yeah.
overall, and I was able, fortunately, got enough points to lock me up into the top 16 for North America. Actually, this is actually something that like I just like realized on my stream. Like the North American region is just Canada/US, but NAIC is still NAIC, which is it's not right. Yeah, the region that US is in is US and Canada, but NAIC is the North American International Championships, which I found like I had that realization on my stream earlier today. I was like, it doesn't really make sense, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter that much, but it doesn't make sense.
Well, you just would
Um,
expect Mexico to be grouped in with our rating
well,
zone.
it used to be, right? I'm pretty sure it was,
I don't
and then
think so, unless it's
someone in
been
my
a lot. I think as long as this, like the ICs have been in place, I'm
yeah,
pretty sure
yeah,
Mexico's
yeah.
always been a part of
I think
Latin
before
America. I
that,
don't know for
maybe.
sure though. I don't know.
Before that, I think I don't remember either, but someone in my chat said it was, and I was like, "That it sounds familiar," but
Well, Pablo
yeah,
usually listens, so I'm sure he can let us know.
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, did make it into the top 16. I still call it NA. I'm just gonna call it NA. I made it into the top 16 for NA, which is dope. Was definitely like one of those things where I wasn't sure if I'd be able to pull it off going to zero locals throughout the year, but turns out if the rest of the players in the region aren't going to do a little bit better, it's possible. And I was able to squeak in at 13th place. Shout out to
Winning two regionals will definitely help. I bet you are glad now that
yeah,
you ended up doing the trip over to Stockholm. One, because you won the tournament, but two, like you locked this up too, which is pretty nice.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, I definitely came up a little bit short at ICs in general. I mean, I got top 16 at UIC, which is good. But I didn't make day two at the other two ICs, and I think we I think we had a really strong play at LAIC. Like
I
looking
think
back on it,
so.
I think
Yeah.
we had a really really strong play at LAIC, and I think I definitely came up short in my play in that one, especially even on my stream match that I was on. So I could have capitalized more there. And even here at NAIC, I don't think I played quite as poorly as LAIC, but I could have definitely done more. From deck choice, we could have made the switch to Charizard, which we had discussed, and then also could have just played. Once we ended up on Gardevoir, though, there's no excuse for me to not to have probably played better with Gardevoir. So I'm still happy to have made top 16. It's a good meme. I got to call out Nico on Twitter, BM him a little bit. I love going back and forth with Nico always. So shout
Yeah,
out to
yeah.
Nico. And yeah, that's just it's to me it's a kind of a cool feat that I was still able to accomplish without going to locals this year because it definitely puts me at quite a bit of a disadvantage to everyone else in the region. And it's not like other players wouldn't have like if you took away Tords and Brent's locals, I'm pretty sure they would still be top in their region as well. So other players definitely basically effectively did the same thing I did, but I started out the year knowing I wasn't going to go to any. So it's good to have that a little bit of edge though going to the world championships.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, it's probably made a lot more valuable the round one bye at Worlds based on the reveal of the tournament structure,
Definitely, yeah.
which we'll talk about later on in this episode. But yeah, I played at NAIC as well. Didn't do super well for me.
Bro, you were hating on Guardy off
I
the rip.
really was, man. The deck, dude. But I have to like be critical as well and recognize that like definitely a big reason that I was disliking the deck. Like every single round when we were like getting back together with the squad and everyone's talking about like how their round went or whatever, I was very much like, dude, this deck is miserable to play. Why did we choose this? I was definitely the Guardy's number one hater at the event. But I have to definitely recognize that a big part of the reason for that is because of my like unfamiliarity with the deck. I tied a round in round number two that I probably would have won. And a big reason why I tied is because I was probably taking way too long to think through the math and stuff because I just hadn't played the deck very much and was trying to think of like, dude, the Monkey Dory like just opens up so many options
Yeah, there's a lot of
with that deck. And I mean, honestly, you were the one who probably played Gardevoir the most going into the tournament, right? Because you like in this format, because you were the one who was like kind of like grinding it whenever we were testing the other decks into
yeah.
Gardevoir, uh, whenever we
Yeah.
were trying to determine what to play.
Yeah, definitely a little bit. And it was a deck that I'd actually played a little bit more with as well leading up to the tournament. Man, I just feel like I was so much there's always just so much Pokemon to play. And
Yeah,
like the way I currently tackle the game, I like it's weird because like I know that there's not a very long life left for how I play the game while still being able to be at the top the way I am. Because I think uh figuring out what the best decks are sooner and then playing with those as much as possible is going to become more of a importance in the game. So,
comfortability. Yeah,
me picking up a deck that I know is a good deck the night before the tournament, but not being as comfortable with it is definitely going to be like, I probably only got a couple years left of that, because the competition is getting more and more. Getting higher and higher every single
dude.
year. So
These kids, man, are too freaking good at the game. It's like crazy. Like the people who are at the top right now that are like under, 23, 22. Like there's so many young players in the game that are just like insane right now. And it's just gonna keep
yeah,
adding more and more to that. I mean, we look at some of the seniors right now, like Gabriel Fernandez, Nathan Osterkatz, who won an AIC in seniors. Gabriel's the world champion. I mean, once these kids start aging up, it's just going to get harder and harder, man.
yeah, I'm glad I was able to get my wins when I could for the era I got to play in because yeah, I don't think like my um I mean maybe over the next maybe they like I've mentioned a couple times now like being more competitive next season, maybe going to like more stuff. But we'll see how it plays out overall. At least next season. Next season is like the season for me to do it. And then after that, I don't know where things are going to really pan out because I still want to keep up with my content stuff and keeping up with the content stuff definitely makes it harder to put that much more time into
Yeah.
um prepping competitively. So, but I'm it's not something I'm like kind of like sad about because like if I really wanted to, I could kind of drop all the you know content stuff and just go full all in on competitive. And I don't think that would be like a terrible financial decision for me either. Like it wouldn't be like a long term goal, obviously, or a long term plan for me for the rest of my life. I'd have to return to content eventually, probably, and I'd want to. But I'm really excited for just the future of the competition. I'm really excited just to see where like some of the players like you mentioned, the Hedricks, the Bradners are able going to be able
Yeah.
to push the ceiling of the game further. And then they're going to need some more younger talent to join him to really push the ceiling that much further. But like you mentioned, Gabriel and uh, Ostercats, who just won NAIC, they're going to be there joining them soon here in the Masters division. So Yeah, it's definitely an exciting time for the Pokemon TCG, and like being part of it and watching it happen is gonna be really
I
really
mean, there
cool.
was even yeah, I mean, some of the first year masters this year, like, Michael Davidson, Bodie Robinson, they were both, like,
They're doing
really
all right,
solid
yeah,
competitors, didn't get any big dubs, but, they're 17 years old, right? Like,
yeah,
it's really
plenty
difficult
of
to
time.
compete in the older division as a teenager, but, like, Hedrick, I don't know exactly how old he is, I think he's, like, early 20s, right? And Bradner, you mentioned as well, both these guys in college competing at the same time. Both of those 2 people you mentioned, Isaiah and Andrew Hedrick, being in college, didn't compete that much at, like, the regional level, went to way less regionals than most people, and still had crazy finishes. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
no,
pretty nuts, man. And then you have
yeah.
people like Ian Robb, I think he graduated college and is literally going full time with Poke. Rowan Stavenow doing the exact same thing, right? Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's cool to be able to witness. I don't think I'm gonna be able to be part of the next the next like growth in the game in terms of pushing the ceiling, but being able to, even if I'm on the sidelines, just being able to witness it for how long I've been in the game, and being a game that I like truly love and just enjoy, just like seeing the competition grow that much more is just really really cool. And I'm just really excited for their, and I feel like it's just like Pokemon is still kind of exploding in that way. So the next couple years, but even like 5 years from now, it's gonna be really exciting to see how the landscape changes. We're headed in a really good direction for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, it's very cool to see, without a doubt. Well, let's jump in to our first topic here. Talk about some of the controversial things that happened at NAIC this week. And if you guys remember, last year there was a guy who was disqualified from top 8. I'm pretty sure, right? Or was it like
Yeah, it was. I
before?
think it was.
It
Yeah,
was like
Toby.
after top 8 was finalized, he was disqualified, like going into top 8, right?
Yeah, it was like during the deck check process. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
it was Toby, right? Toby Clark.
Toby, yeah. And then this year, some similar stuff happening with some disqualifications. The I think biggest one that kind of broke earlier in the day on
Was there one at?
Saturday. Go ahead.
There was no disqualification at UIC this year, right? No big one, anyways.
I don't
I don't think so, right?
remember.
Okay.
I don't want to say one way or the other.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, because when you said we haven't had an IC without a
I said
disqualification, it seems like we.
NAIC, NAIC.
Oh, I think you said an IC because we did have the one at LA Toward at LAIC this
Yeah,
year,
Tori got
right?
DQ'd at
Yeah. So I was like,
LAIC.
am I not remembering one for EUIC? But yeah, I don't think I am. Like misremembering a big one. But yeah, it was Toward at LAIC this year. EUIC went by pretty calmly, and yeah, now we got NAIC where there was a couple of them. We'll talk about. And the first one was, yeah, Noah in round what 10, first round of day 2.
Yeah, it was after his match on stream. He was 8-1-1 with Gardevoir. And was disqualified shortly after stream due to a shuffle. I mean, it's not like Pokemon didn't like release a statement, but I mean, the community can kind of put one and one together, right? He
You could
had
maybe
this
check.
shuffle. Go ahead.
You could check Noah's post. Um, Now, this came from my chat. Someone in my chat told me, and it might be in Noah's video as well. I didn't watch all of Noah's video. I kind of skipped around a little bit when I watched most of it at like times 2 speed, but skipped some parts where I'd already kind of like gone over what he was going over. Someone in my chat told me that Noah was shown this clip and was explained that this was why he was disqualified. Was the stream match.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I imagine they would tell him why if he asked. I can't imagine they
Yeah.
wouldn't
Yeah. But
withhold that
Pokemon
from him.
themselves, like, they didn't like put out an announcement, but like if they
No.
told Noah that and Noah's saying that, that's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so he's DQ'd and is due to insufficient randomization, believed stacking potentially on the stream clip.
And not just
And
insufficient, they wouldn't just DQ you for insufficient randomization.
right, right.
They think Noah cheated. Noah was DQ'd because they think he did cheat in the form of stacking.
So actually, I want to see if we can. I was going to try to pull up the full clip, but basically,
Yeah, you can
Noah,
find, and I can send it to you right now. I have it.
that's fine. But Noah does a deck search, and in his deck search, the back 2 cards of his deck, you can see that the. Okay, here's the clip. Perfect. So Noah does his deck search here with this Ultra Ball, and at the very back of his deck, you can see that there is an Ultra Ball and a reset stamp.
He's looking for a reset stamp here for anyone who's curious. Noah is looking for a reset stamp here. It's also an enhanced hammer. I thought it was an ultra ball as well first, but it's an enhanced hammer.
Okay. Enhanced hammer and unfair stamp at the back of the deck. Does a quick little shuffle. And you can see the first kind of weird thing is he starts to put the 2 pieces together and then like readjusts.
Well, they never
And
connect. It's like a missed mash. Like, have you ever tried to mash with a very small deck before and you just
yeah,
like miss? Um, so
and then people slowed it down, and then so that happens. He ultra balls. He grabs this Jirachi. His opponent declines the cut, and Noah uses concealed cards, draws 2 cards, and the second card he draws is the unfair stamp, which is at first glance looks very suspicious because that's where the unfair stamp was when he shuffled. It was the second card from the top, and then boom, he draws into it.
yeah, and I think like the biggest thing that kind of makes it very obvious that Noah is not stacking his deck through the shuffle is if you go back to the clip real fast, um, and it's the shuffles after the mash shuffles where he's holding when he holds his deck out in front of him after the riffle that he right so right here,
Yeah,
the riffle happens and then there he grabs a chunk of the middle of his deck, throws it on top, and then like throws like half of it on top, throws half of it in the middle, does it again, and then there's another one where he grabs the middle of the deck again and throws half of it on top of the deck and then another half on
yeah,
top of the deck, and then the two things that people were calling Noah out, which would be like um, things that would lead to you believing potentially that the stamp was being stacked on top of the deck was one, Noah moves the stamp to the top of the deck, which does not happen. If you just watch the clip, that does not happen.
does
And the
not.
second was Noah did not offer the cut to Henry, which also is not true. You can even see in the clip, Henry kind of waves off the cut here. Right there, as Henry's like basically verbally tapping the deck, and also Henry or put out a tweet himself saying as much that he verbally told Noah, "I'm good" or "You're good." As you can see here, he quotes himself saying, "You're good" to Noah, saying, "I'm not gonna cut your deck. It's good." Basically, verbally tapping the deck, which is very. You don't have to like physically tap the deck. You can verbally tapping the deck is more than good enough. So the two big points that people were kind of bringing up as to it being why Noah was, like being reasons why it looks like Noah's stacking was one was moving the stamp to the top of the deck, did not happen. The stamp was always on top of the deck in the second card and never changed when Noah went to shuffle the deck after Ultramarine for the Jirachi. And then number two was not offering Henry the opportunity to cut or interact with the deck after sufficiently randomizing, which once again is not true. Noah did offer it to Henry. Henry was like, "Nah, I'm good." You're basically verbally tapping the deck.
One of the
Um,
first things I saw with this, or like heard people saying, was that like you can see that the top card doesn't move. And in this slowed down, zoomed in clip on Twitter, you can pretty clearly see that the top card changes multiple times, even
yeah.
in this weird mash shuffle thing that's kind of happening. Which I would say, I would tell anyone, like, if when your deck gets really thin, it can be a little, more
It's difficult. It's
difficult
difficult to
to
mash shuffle.
randomize, to mash shuffle. Yeah. Doing it like this does look kind of suspicious. So, like, I would just recommend people don't shuffle like this. The way that Noah shuffles later on in his shuffle like this is definitely the much better way to go about it, whenever your deck is that thin, and always making
Yeah.
sure that if you're grabbing from the bottom of your deck, the middle of the deck, whatever, that you're throwing it on top, mashing it into the top half of the deck, and doing that, a good amount of times.
Yeah. So I think this is definitely now one thing I will say with this is like a lot of people like as soon as kind of the script flipped or whatever, and people are like, "Oh wait, Noah didn't cheat and was wrongly disqualified," and then everyone just wanted to go after the judges, which is also just like it's like mob mentality one way or the other, right? It's like, "Oh my gosh, Noah's a cheater, get him!" Oh wait, Noah's not a cheater. Where are the judges at? It's like nothing's perfect. No system is perfect. There will be wrong penalties and wrongful DQs in the Pokemon TCG, and it'll happen again. So there's no reason to really go after the judges in any way. They messed up. I think the only thing we can hope for at this point is a statement from the TO, from TPCI, from Pokemon themselves saying, "Hey, we messed up. We understand our system isn't perfect, and we're constantly working to make it better. This incident will help us improve our system, hopefully moving forward. And we're going to, effective. I would say, I think what we'd want from them at least is to be like Noah, if Noah had lost every round from this point on, would have got enough points for his Worlds invite. So I think as a community, all we should ask TBCI for is just give Noah his Worlds invite because had he lost every single round from here on out, he would have gotten like uh top 256, I think, still 216th, which would have given him the points that he needs for his Worlds invite. So I think as a community, we should just, I think all I personally want to see from TPCI is an apology, admit they messed up, and like to just say that they're going to try and do better in the future, and then give Noah his Worlds invite. I think that's like a fair compromise in this situation. And it's something I would love to see from TPCI. And it's something I feel like at the very least, we should expect some kind of statement after they made the statement about making more transparent statements moving forward, which we haven't seen since that first statement. Like,
Yeah, the thing
we're kind of still waiting on TPCI's first statement after that statement. So, yeah, that's what I would like to see come out of the situation. Now that we've pretty clearly seen that Noah was not cheating.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I do think it's, like, reasonable to be annoyed at the judges in this situation from, mostly probably from Noah's perspective, but, I don't think it's, like, unreasonable for dude, like, the reason he was DQ'd was because of the video of what happened on the stream, and so, obviously, the judges are reviewing what happened on stream, right? And then if they review this footage and then believe him to be cheating, I mean, I think it maybe you could have I don't even know if you could make an argument that this was insufficient randomization, right?
Yeah, that's what
Like,
I don't think, and that's what people jumped to
so,
immediately afterwards as
to
well. It's like,
me,
okay,
like, if we can go back and slow it down and zoom it in and look at it and determine, "Okay, it was fine, it was a
what
sufficient
are they doing
shuffle,"
backstage?
like, why is that not happening, you know?
Yeah,
Why is that not happening? Why are we disqualifying someone whenever we have the ability and the technology to make it happen? Now, they do have to move the tournament along, right? These were very long days at this event. So like they're having to make decisions pretty quickly for sure. And I definitely, I sympathize with the judges for sure, for having to make like tough, difficult calls, but they hold a lot of power, right?
yeah,
And like in this instance, it cost someone a great tournament run for starters, right? 8-1-1, incredible start, putting himself on solid trajectory to have a shot at top eight for sure. Obviously, had a great deck for the tournament because Gardevoir ended up dominating the event, which we'll talk about later. Um,
I
and
feel like the dude.
that was taken away from Noah, and then also his Worlds invitation. And yes,
Yeah,
it would be awesome, and I think I agree with you as well as what you said. Like, it would be great to see Pokemon say we made a mistake, and we want to award Noah his Worlds invitation because yes, Noah did not have his Worlds invite going into NAIC, needed a top 256 finish, which he would have gotten at his 8 wins, right? If he
yeah,
lost every single round from this point on, he would have gotten his Worlds invite. I would love to see them as well award Noah a Worlds invitation. They have the power and ability to do that.
yeah.
I'm not sure that that's going to happen though. I don't know that they have ever done something like that.
It would feel really bad for them not to because, like, it's, like, so obvious that, um, it was definitely a wrongful DQ, and I guess, like, with you saying that, maybe I'm being a little bit too soft on the judges. It definitely feels like they didn't do their due diligence. It feels like they were made aware of the situation, probably
Like, I'm not
from.
saying that people should come after the
Oh,
judges, but
yeah, don't go after the judges, but, like,
I'm saying it's totally reasonable to be, uh, upset that this happened
yeah, it sounds like.
from a spectator's point of view as well, because, like,
Yeah.
most people just wanna see a fair game be played. They wanna see high level Pokemon TCG competition, and that was taken away from us a little bit if this disqualification was wrongful,
Yeah,
assuming that
I
it is only due to what was happened on the stream, which is what we all we know of right now.
yeah, it definitely seems like there was, well, a lack of a process, and the process was invented on the spot right here to, like, determine whether or not Noah was, uh guilty or not, or the process is definitely lacking and needs to be improved on for sure. Whether that be the methods that they're using to determine what was going on, slowing stuff down, zooming in, or the person who was looking at it wasn't qualified to be looking at it. So there's definitely seems to be a misstep in their process because, like, yeah, when you slow it down and zoom in, it is like I don't know how you could ever look at that and be like, "Oh, yeah, Noah definitely was tracking the unfair stamp." Like, if you can't track the unfair stamp when you slow it down and zoom in, how is Noah tracking the unfair stamp? And sure, like, maybe somehow Noah is tracking the unfair stamp, but if you can't say for sure that you can when you slow it down and zoom in, then you can't say that you think Noah is, right? So it definitely, like, once you slow it down and zoom in, it's just like, no, there's no stacking going on here, or I can't see any stacking going on here. So it definitely seems very unwarranted. And I think we should be pretty upset as a community if Noah is not awarded his Worlds invite. I think it would be pretty reasonable for just the general player base to be very upset at TPCI if that is the outcome of this. But yeah, I don't think I have too much more to say on this one. I think we could jump to the next one if you're ready.
Yeah, and there's a little bit less information on this one. We basically do only have one side of the story here because, the situation with Noah occurred on stream. This situation occurred in the seniors division, which is not broadcast except for the final match. And it was from Gabriel Fernandez, who if you've been paying attention to the game, has just been a superstar of the game, even from the seniors division. Has been
Yeah.
really cool to watch. He won the world championships. He won LAIC. He won EUIC, and was putting himself in a spot to make top 8 here at NAIC. It was a different tournament structure as well for the seniors division players because they had a day 2, right? So there was a lot more rounds than any other tournament. I know a lot of the senior competitors are like definitely excited about that because it's just more competition, right? That they get
Yeah.
to it's definitely, it almost feels like a more reasonable path to get to top 8 from the seniors division, going like 10-3-1 or whatever, compared to having to go what 602 in and maybe bubble out with 200 something people. But
Yeah, this
anyway,
definitely elevates the day 2s for the seniors definitely elevates the competition quite a bit, I feel like, for sure.
so I'll just
Um,
read Gabriel's post here. He says DQ'd at NAIC 10-3-1 and top 8 getting DQ'd. In NAIC, I was 8-2-1 and facing a very bad matchup in the 12th round, Snorlax Stall. That deck cannot take prizes, and in the middle of the game, the judges stopped me and said I was trying to put an unfair stamp in the top of the deck, which I was not trying. What would I do with an unfair stamp? Nothing. Useless card in the match. Got a warning for that.
okay, I will mention on that, it's better to have an unfair stamp, and that someone did point this out in my stream earlier when I read through this on stream. If you're up against Snorlax Stall, it's better to have an unfair stamp at the top of the deck than a basic Pokemon that would get fluted. But
True.
still a pretty useless card in the matchup. Also, theoretically, an item like an unfair stamp being on the top of the deck is not better than a supporter because like the best thing you'd want on the top of your deck is like a supporter because if they miss Fortune Sisters, it doesn't get discarded, which then increases their odds of flute hitting because there's one less item card in your deck. So
Mhm.
yeah, the unfair stamp isn't completely dead on the top of your deck for the situations that can arise, but it's worse than something like a supporter. So there's still better cards that could be on top of the deck. But I guess I would just like bring or point that out. But yeah, so it
Then,
seems like kind of
second part of the post here, he says, winning in, I was 9-3-1 and facing future hands in the 14th rounds. I was up 1-0 in that series, and I was going to win game 2. With no outs left for my opponent to win the game, I used my unfair stamp, and the judge said I was looking at my deck while shuffling. I was not looking at my deck, and there was 0 cards I needed at that moment, and was going to win by simply attacking and getting to top 8 at 10-3-1. With that, they decided to disqualify me. That's the only way they can stop me from winning.
I like the follow up there is pretty pretty savage. I like the confidence there. The first thing I would say to this is like this is why it's super important. And I'm not saying like the judges are out to get anyone or they're trying to just like DQ people or give people penalties, but it's why it's very important if you feel even a warning is unjustified to push it as far as you can go to get it reverted. Because warnings lead to double prize penalties, lead to match losses or game losses, match losses, DQs even. So even a warning can have a snowball effect in the outcome of your tournament. You don't want to go from being like, oh, it's just a warning, whatever. I know I'm right here and I shouldn't be getting this warning, but it's a warning. So whatever. I'm just going to continue playing my tournament. You should fight every single warning or penalty if you feel like you are justified, up until as far as you can go. As soon as the head judge gets involved and says, no, the penalty is going to stick, of course, there's not too much more you can do, but you should always push it to the limit as a player to protect yourself. And I'm not saying the judges are out to get people when I say protect yourself, but if you do feel justified and or the penalty feels unjustified, protect yourself as much as you possibly can. Push the appeal as far as you possibly can until you can't go any further, and then you will have to accept fate at that point. Um, and I don't know if Gabriel did that. I mean, he's a senior, a kid, and I don't know if he knows like how to tackle those situations. Also, I don't know. One thing that my someone brought up in my chat is like his I'm sure his native language or his main language is Portuguese, right? He probably doesn't speak English very well, and even if there are translators at NAIC, and I'm sure there was someone there speaking Portuguese for sure, but things can get lost in translation that might not quite be how you're trying to describe what is going on from Gabriel's point of view potentially. So I definitely feel like there could have been some kind of a language barrier issue is there as well, which could have led to the warning or the DQ in this instant for either of the scenarios. That's like another factor to get involved here. But overall, I
I will
think
say
go,
they
go ahead.
anytime like, you know, doing the casting and stuff of these events, like I walk around a lot of the top tables and I, see whenever all kinds of things are happening, from, prize penalties, game losses, whatever, all those things happening. And I will say like I wasn't doing that at this event, so I don't know for sure that this happened. But in general, in my experience, the tournament organizers are like the tournament staff, I should say, are like always very good and diligent about having the appropriate translator at the table whenever these things are happening, right? And I'm sure that's been your experience as well. Whenever you have, non-English speaking opponents and things like this have happened, whenever it's like, something serious like this, like, there's no shortage of, well, there may be a shortage, but there's always a translator made available
Yeah.
whenever these things need to happen.
Mhm. Yeah, there's always a translator there. So like Chip said, we have less information about this one. There's no video footage, but I think we kind of stick it like with this one and with things like this moving forward. I think we gotta kind of as a community stick it to TPCI, and I think we just take Gabriel's side of the story and we take that as truth until and we want to try and I think through that as much as we can force TPCI to start to make statements on these situations and if not, I think we should take this scenario and future scenarios as whatever the player says is what happened because we don't know both sides of the story, but we're never getting both sides of the story. So if we're never getting both sides of the story, what are we waiting for? Why are we running interference and defense preemptively for something that's never coming? Right? I don't think it makes any sense. I think if TPCI, if the TO, if they want to say their side of the story, defend their judges in whatever means, have a counter argument or counter statement to what players are saying in these kind of situations good and they should but if you're not going to then I don't think we should sit there I'm personally tired of making the statement we don't know both sides of the story because we're never getting the other side of the story so as far as I'm concerned Gabriel was wrongly disqualified from NAIC.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for sure. Um, I think it's a reasonable way to approach it, right? Until we
Until they
know,
start
like,
doing it and as
yeah.
soon as they do I'm down to wait the couple days or a week until TPCI makes their announcement before I make a judgment on these scenarios right like if we knew TPCI would be making a post a couple days from now about Gabriel's scenario, I would wait. I would reserve judgment until I see TPCI's post or the TO's post or whatever it might be, and I would read what Gabriel says. I'd read their statement as well, and then I would make an informed decision from there on what I think, if I think it was justified or unjustified.
I will
But because we
say
know it's don't come in, because we know it's not coming, then I'm down to be like Gabriel was wrongly DQ'd because it doesn't from what he said, it doesn't sound like it was rightfully DQ'd.
I was gonna say, it's definitely, like, possible that, like, it's definitely, normal, like, I guess, like, your normal bodily reaction to, like, if you're doing something with your hands would be to be, like, looking down and looking at what you're doing, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually trying to look at the cards within your deck when you're shuffling. You're just more so trying to make sure that your cards are like lining up. But what I was going to say is like I think a good word to the wise for people is like to try to learn how to shuffle while like looking away from your deck. That's like what I think
Yeah,
most people do. And I actually just really quickly went to EUIC Seniors Finals, and if you look at this Ultra Ball that Gabriel is playing, he starts to shuffle afterwards, and he does just that. You can see his face; he's looking to the side. So
yeah.
I mean, he's done that before for sure. That's definitely the way you should, I think, approach shuffling.
Is what I've been telling a lot of people recently. Is just please practice shuffling. A lot of
Yeah.
y'all are really, really bad at shuffling, and it takes no effort to practice smash shuffling. You don't have to learn how to riffle. You don't have to learn how to bridge. Take some time, learn to match. You can do it while you're watching a TV show. Just take a deck and practice mash shuffling while you're doing literally anything that if you're not using your hands for something like watch a TV show, listen to music, listen to your podcasts outside on the porch, drinking a cold one, mash shuffling. Like just put some time in if you're gonna compete at these tournaments, y'all got to get better at shuffling. So put some time in, learn to shuffle. And actually, I think that's why, like, just going back to Noah's thing, I think that's why Noah was missing the shuffle because I don't think Noah was like when I like watched the video for the first time, I was like, well, Noah's missing the mash shuffle and to initiate the shuffle at the beginning after finding the Jirachi, and it's like I was like, it doesn't look like he's looking at his deck. So like that makes it when the deck is that small. Try to mash shuffle it. If you're not looking, it's gonna be that much easier to miss. Like I've and to put out there, like it is a thing that happens. That I've done that before. I've gone to mash shuffle with a fairly thin deck later in the game, and I've missed, and I've had to reset and try
Yeah.
again.
I will
So
say it's kind of funny. You can tell the whole shuffle. Hang on, I've got the whole shuffle that we see from like kind of similar to what Noah was doing. And then also, even in that quick clip that Gabriel was doing, is you'll see at the very end of the clip, he kind of like was pulling the top part of the deck and then like pushing it together like this,
yeah,
right? As opposed to just like doing like chops on top, the mashing. Um, you honestly you see that so you can I've made this joke before, I think on the broadcast, like you can tell which players have been playing the game since they were little kids because when you're small, your hands are smaller, it's harder to shuffle the deck, and that's like an easier
Yeah,
way to
you do the
shuffle the
pull apart.
deck.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like that's how you can tell who's been playing the game since they were little young because that's like how they've
That
always
is
shuffled.
true. I didn't
Some of
never even
these, I
realize
will
that.
say, like maybe some of you listening to this, if you've been playing since you were young and you kind of do this type of shuffle, maybe it's time to like try to adjust your shuffle, learn how to
You're
riffle
not
or get some true mashes in there, right?
Pips out here like, "You're not a baby
Your
anymore.
hands are grown
Learn
now, you
learn to
know.
shuffle like an adult already, would you please? You're not a child anymore. Come on, get it
Yeah, yeah,
together. What are we doing?"
yeah.
Yo, speaking of that, I played against, uh, who did I play against? Aaron Curry, very old Pokemon player, and when we sat down, I was like, "Are you the Aaron Curry?" And he thought that was funny because like, no one remembers, or he said, like, no one
No
remembers.
one would call him that except someone who
Yeah.
like yeah, yeah.
'Cause I remember, like, he was, like, a really good player. I mean, he still was pretty good. Like, when I played against him, he was pretty good, right? We tied Guardian Mirror. So still a very good player. Sorry, Aaron, didn't mean to say that. But, really good player from back in the day who, like, I knew the name, and, took note of as, like, a really good player back in the day. But, yeah, I was like, "Are you the Aaron Curry?" When I said to him, and he shuffles like that. If I'm remembering correctly, he does the and he's been playing for, like, a really long time, so he does the the shuffle that you were just, demonstrating where you pick it up and you push it down the top, and I think you are right. Kids a lot of the kids do shuffle like that. I didn't really
Yeah.
ever notice that before until you pointed it out. Um, but, yeah, Chip's trying to say, "Stop shuffling like a child. Get it together. What are you doing?" Um, but, yeah, I think, we can move on. Like I said, my opinion, both of these, as far as I'm concerned, both of these two DQs are unjustified and always want to see more moving forward. I don't put too much. I mean, I do like want to see better from the judges as always, but like I always say, like there's always gonna be mistakes, right? There's and from this point on, it's not like, oh, we've reckoned these are the last mistakes ever from judges in terms of bad penalties and DQs, stuff like that. There's still going to be plenty of other um, bad penalties and bad DQs dished out from judges in the future. But we always just hope that the system improves and people just get better at those processes and stuff like that.
Let's move on and talk about the results of NAIC. So, all in all, there ended up being 2,600 players at the tournament. This was the first time a Pokemon tournament had taken place in New Orleans, at least a large one. I'm sure there's been, League Cups and stuff like that, but large scale major Pokemon tournament in New Orleans for the first time. And see, I saw some like feedback on Twitter. It seemed like people overall enjoyed New Orleans. What was
Yeah,
your kind of sentiment, you think, Azul, as a player in New
yeah, I liked it.
Orleans?
I like the. I mean, the only thing I really get to do, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, is basically eat and play Pokemon. Like, there's no time to do too much sightseeing, or there
Well, you
technically
and
like
Lorelai went to the French Quarter one morning, right?
yeah, we went to the French
Or French
market.
Market?
It was really cool there actually. Like all the buildings and stuff are like pretty old. It's a dope vibe for sure. I just like old buildings. That's like one reason I like London. I'm from Boston, so that's probably part of it for sure. Big fan of old buildings, old architecture. But yeah, I got to do a little sightseeing, but it's more so a choice. Like I would rather be in the hotel room grinding Pokemon than out sightseeing, putting as much time as I can into um, prep for the tournament personally. So that's where I put my effort in. I definitely could do some more sightseeing if I wanted to, but the one thing I get to do definitely is eat, and there's some dope food there for sure. And um, that was really good. Definitely did not eat as much of the stuff there as I'd wanted, so I am excited that we are going back next year.
Yeah, that was
Um,
something they announced in the closing ceremony. New Orleans will be the location for NAIC next season as well.
yeah, which yeah, I'm down for because I definitely didn't try as much of the local cuisine as I would have liked. So excited to go back there and try some more. But overall, yeah, I like New Orleans as a location. I mean, it was like hot, it was humid, but it's early summer everywhere. It's going to be hot or humid no matter where we go. I guess maybe not too humid depending on where you go.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just like yeah, these big tournaments are in summer for a reason, or the biggest tournaments in Pokemon are in summer because that's when it's most convenient for the majority of people to actually go to these big tournaments. So it's gonna be hot and humid in Hawaii, so yeah, no matter where you go in the summer, it's gonna be hot usually. So, but I had a good time.
Well, let's look at the results of the event. Let's start with the meta breakdowns, actually. Starting with day one of the tournament, and I think to no one's surprise, Lugia and Raging Bolt were leading the way.
Yeah,
18% meta share for Lugia in day one, 15% for Raging Bolts. Maybe a little bit of a surprise is that Gardevoir was all the way up to
yeah.
14. I knew Gardevoir would probably be like the third most popular deck. I don't think I I think I underestimated it a little bit as far as what the actual meta share would be.
Yeah, definitely. Me as well. The rest of the group, like our group, was like, probably about 10%. Is what our prediction was. But I don't think it was like, I don't think it was too hard to predict that it would be this popular. To be honest, so I kind of that's one of those things. Like when I like look at the meta results and think about like my prediction or the group's prediction is like, all right, should we have been able to predict that Gardevoir would be higher? Probably, to be honest. There's a lot of hype
Yeah.
going into it. A lot of good players were talking about it being a really good play, and it was definitely a really good play. And then oh, I hadn't even looked at the best of the rest yet. But then yeah, Dragapult, I mean, you had Lost Box up there as well, pretty popular. Dragapult EX at the 5%. And Miraidon making it on the sheet at 5% or on the first page at 5% was I guess maybe not too big of a surprise. Like Miraidon was definitely a deck that I had seen people talking about leading into the event because you got a good Lugia matchup and you have a good Gardevoir matchup
It's good against
too.
pretty much everything but Raging
Yeah,
Bolts.
that's a tough one. It's hard to want to take a tough matchup to 15% of the meta as well, but it's not unwinnable. You just got to kind of gust around the Raging Bolt until
Get a
Raichu
little
can,
double
like, kick your last
Zapdos
2.
action in there, Miraidon's,
Double Zapdo. Did anyone play that?
I actually don't know, but that's yeah. Actually, let's look at Ian Robb's list real quick because Ian
Oh,
Robb did get a top 32 finish with the deck. He only had the one Zapdos though.
come on. He doesn't know about the double zap. Yeah, I think most of the time you're just like, oh, there's, like, Ursaluna in there as well,
Yeah,
other close about
Ursaluna
that.
can get in there at the
So you could
end.
go like, oh, there's no I'm looking at Mike Gibbs' list here. There's no Raichu. So I was saying, okay, maybe you could go Raichu into Luna. But you're really just trying to play around the until the Luna can take over, you really are just trying to gust around it, I
Yeah,
guess.
Mike Gibbs' list is crazy. Four boss, four Arvin. Those are the only supporters in this deck.
Wasn't Ian's list the exact same?
No, Ian has like research and stuff.
Yeah, I looked at Mike Gibbs' list. I really, really liked,
Ian has four research, three Iono. It's like totally
look
different.
at all this junk in here, bro. The thorns. Oh wait, that's wait. What is the thorns that good against? I guess Lugia. You're already bopping Lugia, but get the
You
thorns
should
involved.
be.
Sure. Charizard, I guess. Charizard would be a matchup that helps as well. Yeah, I don't think Gibbs list is beating Charizard. There's like no Raichu or of course Charizard not a deck that's predicted to do very well. Um, yeah, Mariah ended up being a pretty solid play, right? Really good
Yeah,
against
for sure.
two of the top three most popular decks, and then
Well, and I think it's like a reasonable call, and this is probably like what Ian's thought process was, is like, uh, I don't think very many like good quote unquote or like top tier players are gonna pick up Raging Bolt. So if I can
yeah,
like dodge it in the first few rounds, I maybe won't see it, right?
yeah. I think it was like a pretty reasonable prediction, and like yeah, a ridiculous like the like skill difference to play rate of players who played Gardevoir was like insane at this tournament. There was just like such a ridiculous amount of top players playing Gardevoir.
And they did
Um,
show us the best of the rest in day one, the meta share of the other decks out there. I don't think there's anything too big of a surprise. It is worth
yeah,
noting, Lost Zone Dragapult was 4.4% on its own. So you combine that with the other Dragapult, you're looking at a 10% meta
yeah,
share of the new archetype overall.
yeah, and that was what me and the or we in the group predicted was a 10% from Dragapult like combined. So it's cool to see we got that right. But yeah, did not have Dragapult overall had a pretty lackluster event, which I don't think going into the tournament is that surprising because I mean my experience with the deck and seeing its results was fairly
You know,
lackluster. The deck seemed okay, and I
yeah,
think it's kind of that's where it's sitting.
it was really interesting because it was like right at the when we were like trying to like really finalize the deck Thursday night, what we wanted to play. You were talking about, taking the lost Dragapult, which I was, like, fine with as well, and saying, like, what it you one of the things you said was, like, what if, like, everyone else just kinda comes to the same conclusion we did, that Dragapult is, like, okay, right? That it's not, like, that good, it's not game breaking, and then in day 2, I actually talked to James Cox a little bit, and he was telling me about their process, and he was like, "Yeah, we were pretty locked on Gardevoir a few days ago, we kinda came to the conclusion that Dragapult was, like, okay," like, it was like, "Hmm, interesting."
I'm actually surprised. Yeah, I mean, this tournament I feel like was so well positioned for Charizard, and it's a deck that we talked about playing. And I think if we had went off our instincts a little bit more, we would have played Charizard. It was a very low percentage played deck. It did okay. Acevedo still brought it. I assume Petrucci also brought it if Acevedo played it,
Yeah.
and um, I think. It had a really good shot of doing very, very well overall. I think maybe the one thing, I mean, if you can take a look at Petrucci's list, I'm actually curious. Did they run Jirachi? I think the one thing maybe missing
Yeah,
from
we
the
probably would not have played Jirachi.
yeah, I think it's the one thing that because like Lost Box had a pretty good event as well, and being able to use Jirachi in the matchup is like a pretty big difference. So that
Yeah,
might
they
be
went
the
heavy
one.
on stadiums here, which we also wouldn't have had.
Sheesh, that's a little light on supporters. Two
Yeah,
Iono,
2
three R,
Iono. Yeah.
chill.
Yeah, I don't know about 2 Iono.
This list feels pretty checked out, but yeah, I think the Charizard was pretty well positioned overall at the event. I don't know how it'll look moving forward, but things are definitely we did a lot of time for things to adjust for the World Championships,
And
which
there's a new set
honestly,
as well.
yeah, which I'm kind of liking. I thought we had 1 month for some reason. We got 2 months. I'm kind of liking that the 2 month break, the off season. I'm down for an off season to be honest, and this is it. I mean, we're
Yeah,
gonna probably
time to
pick up pretty quickly
rehab,
after
get
World.
your body back in shape for the season,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Got World. I assume, yeah, the season will probably pick up pretty quickly after Worlds. We don't have any announcements yet, but I would imagine probably no longer than about a month after Worlds, so the first major will probably go down.
Yeah,
It
that's
feels
what
like
it's
it's usually
been.
around that time frame. Um, but yeah, I mean, Gardevoir absolutely dominated, right? Hedrick getting the dub though with the Lost Box, 2 Lost Box in the cut. And there were 1 or 2 cards different. Andrew Gantner and Andrew Hedrick, the Andrews, show up to Lost Box. I'm pretty sure there was some communication between them on this list as well, if I'm remembering correctly from what I saw on Twitter. So
Yeah, seemed like it.
I think Gantner maybe gave Hedrick the props for the list. So, but Hedrick takes it all down. First international dub, fourth major dub now for
Yeah,
Hedrick
pretty
over the
crazy in 2
last
seasons.
2 seasons. Yeah, I mean that's not bad. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like, we were talking earlier about just, like, the great young players in the game right now. I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that, like, in 5 years, we're talking about Andrew Hedrick as, like, he has the pot he the this he has that potential to be in, like, the conversation with people like yourself toward all that stuff, right? Of like the top percent of like the history of the game. Jason
Yeah,
as well. Not there yet because there's just doesn't have the longevity, but like I mean,
yeah,
he's
yeah,
definitely like top 5 in the game right now. Andrew Hedrick is probably up there, right?
yeah. Just gotta convince him to quit so he doesn't threaten my title. No, I'm just like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, definitely for sure. And like the biggest thing that makes like a difference for like we mentioned a lot of great players, and like I think Bradner is always another one that comes to mind. But
Yeah.
like, and I'm not trying to like I love you, Bradner, but like you winning is just so important to like leaving that legacy, which is like something that Hedrick is doing. Hedrick is winning. Um and is yeah, definitely like, the top player in the game last season, top player in the game this season. If he keeps on winning, he's definitely gonna be in that conversation soon. But yeah, is actually like, not just doing well, not just respected as a player, but also winning these tournaments, getting his first IC dub with a pretty cool Lost Box build overall. To be honest, it's like as turbo as it can get. I feel like, um,
But also just like, I love the like maxing of the consistency really of this
yeah,
deck.
I
I
like
mean,
the
I guess
no
there is
force
only 3
seals
Buddy
though.
Poffin, but 4 Mirage Gate, 4
Yeah,
Pokestop. Um,
four switch card.
yeah, yeah, like he's just maxing his potential here of consistency. And that's like such a big part of these ICs, these big tournaments is just like your deck doing what it's meant to do round after round. Like
Yep.
cute techs are cool and all, but like especially in new formats, brand new metas, like just making sure your deck works is the most supremely important thing.
Because everyone else's deck is gonna suck a little bit, or most people's decks are gonna suck a little bit. And I'm sure there's stuff that Hedrick would probably want to change up about this list moving forward. Depending on what you predict the meta to go or what it to be.
Yes,
But
yeah.
and then like I said, I was saying, yeah, the one thing I like is like the lack of V Pokemon, lack of Force Heal Stone, because it always felt I haven't really messed with Lost Box a whole ton for a while, but it felt like people were trying to force the Force Seal Stone into the deck when it's like I play one Raikou, which is okay in a couple matchups, and I'm still playing my Force Seal Stone. It's like it felt so forced whenever I look at like Lost Zone lists over the last couple formats. It's like, what if you just like is Raikou even that good? Why are we even playing the V stuff at this point? I guess Iron Thorns is probably a big part of that though for your Lugia matchup. Because
Yeah, it's
that
a
is
good
your
reason to
go-to.
drop the Raikou, right?
Yeah, just drop it completely. Yeah, so the Iron Thorns probably is a big part of that, but whenever I, like, looked at lists, it always, like, felt so forced or, like, specifically, like, I guess the Lugia matchup, like, Raikou was still okay, but even then, Lugia wasn't that good until this format now, but now you have the Iron Thorn, so it makes really no sense to ever include the Raikou anymore. or the 4 Seal Stone. And the Thorn does a lot for the deck outside of that as well. Like, he can be gimmicky against Gardevoir
Mhm.
and Charizard as well. So it adds like a lot more depth to the deck, a lot more, I don't know, cute plays you can make. But yeah, really good deck, good player.
Got a great boost with the Blood Moon Ursaluna as well in
Yeah,
this new set, right?
just hit hard whenever, or yeah, basically whenever with Mirage Gate, right?
Yeah.
Early game, late game, can do it
Usually
all.
after 2 prizes have been taken at least, right? It'd be pretty,
Now we're going in 5 energy Blood
costly to
Moon
do a
Ursaluna.
double
Send
Mirage Gate
him,
on this
send him.
guy. Usually, you only wanna be double Mirage Gating to your hands, I feel like, right? But
Yeah, probably. And Hedrick did take down Stefan, who made it to the 4th IC finals, 3rd time NAIC finals,
pretty crazy.
playing the guard for, and definitely some mistakes on Stefan's side in that first game of the finals, which was unfortunate. Stefan basically had it locked up and then like benched Manaphy and just did not need to bench Manaphy. And if he just benched Cresselia, I'm pretty sure he just wins the game. So he was trying to play, fast, timely, keep the game moving. Doesn't want to get any kind of slow play warnings or penalties like that. Made a mistake, and Hedrick had a pretty insane comeback to go with that as well. It was like
Yeah,
I
and
made a
it
mistake,
came
which opened up
down
the opportunity.
Yeah, it came down to a confusion flip, right? Which was pretty
Yeah,
wild. Yeah, I was talking with people at the event, like, it has to just be the highest stakes flip, like, in the history of the game. Like, I can't think of one higher. Maybe some Team Galactic Wagers things way back in, like,
yeah,
2008, but I don't know for sure. Or that's not even a flip, that's that's freaking rock, paper, scissors, man, but,
yeah. I'm sure some of the. Oh yeah, some people will argue it's a coin flip.
yeah.
Um, Not to
For
toot
anyone
my
who
own
doesn't
horn.
know, since we're talking about it, I will just say real quick because it's like old school. Back in like the 2008 time frame, there was no good disruption cards in the
Yeah.
formats except for this, which was Team Galactic's Wager. Each player shuffles their hand into their deck, and you and your opponent play rock, paper, scissors. The player who wins draws 6, the player who loses draw 3. This was a card that was like this was played in
Good.
top tier
Yeah,
decks because it was
yeah.
the only disruption option in the format, really.
And then when you went against Gardevoir, you couldn't play it because then you gave. For anyone who doesn't know, Gardevoir's Poke Power lets you copy a supporter in your opponent's discard pile. So you couldn't like play down Team Galactic's Wager because once they set up Gardevoir plus Cladle, they would just wager you every single turn
Yeah.
until they stuck one.
Yeah.
Honestly, that sounds like a pretty unfun format. I wonder. Yeah, I wonder if that format was actually if people thought that format was good.
No,
Like when Guardy was
2008?
broken.
2008, a lot of people like, yeah,
Terrible, right?
it
One of
was
the
like
worst.
Gardevoir was just way too good.
Yeah, broken cards, man. Literally the Lugia Archeops
Yes,
rotation of its time.
it was truly.
Broken. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, not to toot my own horn, but another one of the most impactful flip I think I've ever had was the 6 prize turn with Whale Lord
Mm,
against Shemansky was off of an order pad heads field
mm.
blower. This is yeah. Back then you didn't win as much money for going as deep into tournaments, so this is definitely the biggest one ever, I think, the confusion flip. It was
And it
hype
was in
too. It
top
was
8, not
exciting.
the finals, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was hype too. It was exciting coming down to the confusion flip. Um
Yeah, basically,
one
yeah,
of
it was
the
like it was Monkey Dory, right, confused the Iron Hands, and then
yeah. Hedrick
if
had no
Andrew
outs,
flips
couldn't
heads, he
reset, yeah.
wins the game. If he flips tails, Stefan wins the game on the next turn. It literally just came down to that, and it was what Hedrick had to go for,
Yeah.
and it was heads.
Yeah, and it was also, like, on top of that, the game, like, I mentioned, like, Stefan made a pretty big error. It comes down to the confusion flip, but just, like, a huge comeback in general. Like, early on in the game, it was like, should Hedrick scoop the question on, like, turn 2 was like, should Hedrick scoop here? Like,
Yeah.
do you want and overall, you never scoop there because Hedrick wants less time as you get into game 3, and there's a possibility of winning, so, like, why not stick it out, right? And stuck it out,
The
and
time
as the
rules
game
definitely favor Hedrick in top
yeah.
cut. Yeah.
And as the game progressed out, it was like, all right, the Greninja play happened, and then the hands happened, then the hands couldn't get KO'd, and then yeah, it came down to the confusion from the Monkey Dory. So really uh epic game for sure. Um and then I guess like the follow-up games weren't quite as exciting or the follow-up games of the final. What happened in game 3? I'm trying to remember. No, game 3 was still even though it did come down to which guess is like unfortunate. It did time got played out really fast, or there wasn't that very much time left going into game 3, and
Yeah.
it kinda just came down to could Hedrick find a prime catcher, to get the last prize card in turns or after turns or something like that, so,
Yeah, to be ahead going into turn 3 or after turn 3.
yeah. I guess, like, another situation there is, like and this is, like I mean, that's why I just, like, love there's so much depth to, like, competitive Pokemon, that's why, like, it's just so like, for me, watching these games is so entertaining stuff, like, there's so much more. I mean, I think Hedrick played it's really good to see because I think Hedrick did play better than Stefan. There's, like, a lot of little things, like I said, that Stefan could have done better. Time management on Stefan's side wasn't great either. Like, I think Stefan was just taking too long to, like, make decisions and just needed to play faster. Because when you get to that game 3 scenario, you want as much time as possible on Stefan's side, generally. So, because of how the match can play out. And also going to game 3 was gonna be the first game where Hedrick finally got to go first, and as long as Stefan doesn't open Fluttermane or Klefki, or, uh, specifically the Klefki, because you could, like, bundle the
Bundle,
Fluttermane,
yeah.
then Hedrick actually has a chance to use a couple Comfies, find that first Colress, and actually be aggressive. Because game 1 and game 2, Hedrick just couldn't be aggressive. It was basically locked out of by the Klefki and the Fluttermane the whole game, until he made the big comeback in game 1 and kind of just fizzled out in game 2. So game 3 is like there was like that looming threat of, okay, Hedrick finally gets to go first, and what can he kind of do with that? And was able to, like, get that that early lead, start the prize trade initially, and close it out from there. Um, as far as guard decks go, there was a lot of different takes on it in the top 8 lists, and there were 6 in top 8.
Yeah, there was 6. Yeah, Stefan here does have the Hyper Aroma in the list. 1 Hyper Aroma, 1 Technical Machine Evolution, which, like, I guess does check out, right? Most people playing
Yeah.
2 TM Evo, but if you're playing the Aroma, you can make a space there for sure.
Also had the Klefki, which a lot of people
Yeah,
didn't have, so had, like, the extra tech card specifically really good against Lost Box.
yeah. And then there was the slew of Australians, right? Kywin and Nadley both making top
Yeah.
8. Brent bubbling with the same 60.
Yeah, kinda crazy run from them. I mean,
Yeah, and then
people
James
kind
Cox
of,
also got top 32 with the same 60 as well.
yeah. The big standout card here to me is definitely the TM Devolution. Like, this list is like me and my group played 2 cards different from this list. We didn't play the TM Devo, and we played, another Psychic over a Dark. We had the Turo over the TM Devo.
Yeah.
Uh, this felt like what was kind of the standard list at the tournament for the most part. Unfair Stamp, double TM Evo,
Yep.
and then 1 Monkey Dory, right? But yeah, crazy success from the Australians. I feel like when they, like, are putting full effort in, they definitely, I feel like part of that is too is like, I mean, Kywin didn't play last season, but yeah, when Kywin's playing with them as well, I feel like it definitely makes a difference for them in their results. Not just with Kywin doing well, but I feel like I don't know what their process is when Kywin's playing with them, but they definitely seem to have overall better results together as a group when he is working with them consistently. So they're going to be a scary force at Worlds, again this year.
Yep, for sure. And yeah, I mean, so we saw 6 Gardevoirs in the top 8, the 2 lost boxes we talked about. But once we get outside the top 8 here, there's definitely a bit more variety here. We've got Ben Cryer with the Snorlax. We've got Mike Gibbs with the Miraidon. We already mentioned that. Grant Manley from the testing group did get 12th with the same 60 Gardevoir. Brandon Salazar with the Raging Bolt.
Highest placing
Jacob
Raging Bolt.
I with Reggie Drago. Yeah, a funny story about this. This guy Jacob, he had to get top 16 at this tournament to get his Worlds invite.
There we
Now
go.
imagine having that, going into the event, you have to get top 16 at a event that's going to be 2,700 people. And you're like, yeah, I'll roll up with Reggie Drago V Star. And then actually doing it too. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's really cool. I actually tried out a couple games with this on stream earlier. It's definitely the most consistent deck at getting off a turn 2 Dragapult attack that I've played with so far. The best Dragapult deck is a Reggie Drago deck.
There you go.
Yeah, so it's got a couple different dragon attackers in here, and then the energy acceleration is coming through the Ogerpon EX, which probably is the most consistent form of energy acceleration for the deck. It finally has, like, a reasonably consistent form of energy acceleration, which is definitely what it's been missing. Yeah, really cool deck overall. I definitely want to mess around with it some more. I haven't played a ton with it, but it's definitely cool. That's for sure.
Definitely a fun one.
I guess one thing I would mention about the other top 8 guard would be Henry Chow and Kato, both playing double Monkey Dory.
Mm.
Uh, and then Kato's build is pretty similar to what most people are doing. The double Bravery Charm. You still have the same attackers in there. Drifloon has a double Monkey Dory. No Mana Fee. That feels hella sketch to me.
And no Greninja
No
either.
Greninja. And this list is actually pretty similar to the top 8 Gardevoir list from the Japan Championships. It's not too far off.
Yeah.
So really interesting build here. But I would say even maybe slightly more interesting because we saw something similar to Japan Championships was Henry Chow's list. Double Monkey Dory, 3 basic dark energy, the aroma, no Drifloon, no bravery charm. Still has a luxurious cape to combo with the Screamtail later in the game, but it's basically like a Fluttermane Monkey Dory deck. Like
Yeah.
like this list is pretty wild.
Or
And then you
like a
get in
Gardevoir deck, right? Like, you just attack with Gardevoir.
yeah, you can just attack with Gardevoir, right? Because like Gardevoir plus a couple Dories KOs like Raging Bolts and stuff.
Yeah.
And then someone who played a list kind of similar to this was actually Henry Brand. Henry Brand's list, I believe, didn't have Bravery Charms, didn't have the Drifloon, um, and had the double Dory. I don't think there was triple basic Dark Energy. Yeah, no, only double basic Dark Energy. Mew, Squawkabilly, extra consistency there. I guess as far as consistency cards go, Bradner, who got top 16, was playing a Luminion in his build. So Gardevoir was by far the most successful deck. The more standard build did do the best overall, but I think there's a lot to look at here from Gardevoir
Yeah.
lists and see what is actually the best way to play Gardevoir. Because some people weren't even playing the Drifloon and the Bravery Charms, and had some pretty good success. So there's still a lot to break down about Gardevoir itself.
I think that's the most interesting version of the deck to me, for sure. The heavy monkey Dory
Yeah,
with the yeah, just going with Gardevoir, it's a big attacker. Going with Fluttermane, obviously. Like, Fluttermane's kind of just insanely good
they
against a
just
lot of
spread.
stuff. Yeah. Slows some stuff down
I
and
definitely want to try out Henry's build. I think that one intrigues me the most. I don't know how I feel about Luminion and Squawkabilly. I feel like I'm losing a lot of games if I'm putting those guys in play.
we did see
But
Tord make top 32, 18th place with Charizard, but a new partner in there as well has a thin Dragapult line into his like trusty Charizard deck.
yeah, TM Evo in there as well. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here. I don't know how to feel about this build of Dragapult, but also was it Michael Pramawat? Pram played
Yeah, Prams,
a
it's kind
pretty
of interesting.
similar
So like,
build.
yeah, Tords is like a Charizard deck with a thin Dragapult. Prams is like a Dragapult deck with a thin Charizard.
Yeah, so pretty interesting takes from both players. I feel like. Um, I still don't know how to feel about Dragapult overall. More new ways to play it. Dragapult Pidgeot did win in the senior division. I
Yeah.
guess that's like something to note there for sure. And it was like a Neo Upper Energy Pidgeot V Barrel build, I believe. Also had the card that I liked the most in there was a Silene.
Yes.
So you
Yeah,
could
that
like
was super cool.
immediately recover the Neo Upper with that, and then like immediately draw back into it with Dragapult or V Barrel. Um, yeah, from Nathan Ostercat. So I really liked the silence. You could kind of chain Neo if you're playing up against a deck with enhanced hammer or something like that.
My prediction is that Nathan is going to be the first person to win an IC in all three age divisions.
Did he win in juniors?
He won two in juniors.
How many has he won in seniors?
Just this one, but this is just
Okay.
his second year in seniors. He has 2 more years in seniors.
Oh, well, did Gabriel not win IC in juniors?
Actually, I don't know that 100%.
I
Probably
don't think
looking
anyone
up.
else has done that.
That yeah, there's probably very few people who have that potential, right? Might be worth looking into. Benny maybe would have had a shot, but he got second at LAIC or EUIC, right? Yeah, he got second
Is
at
Benny didn't
EUIC.
win one in his run in
No, I don't think so
seniors?
because he lost 3 years to COVID, man.
No
3
excuses. No excuses.
I
Is he a master next year? Or is he one
think
other year?
so, I wanna say, but I'm not I
Oh,
guess I'm not 100% sure. I think Benny is aging up. I think Justin is staying in seniors 1 more year as far as, like, the good senior division players.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the Gardevoir dominance was definitely. I mean, like me and my group thought it was the best. Like I thought it was the best deck. I think it's what I even mentioned on the podcast or on my stream leading up to tournament. Like Gardevoir feels the best. It's just like everything I played with so far. Gardevoir feels like the best deck, and that's like we couldn't come up with anything better than it at the actual tournament. Um, the squad couldn't come up with anything better, so we ran with the Gardevoir. Did okay, like I mentioned. I definitely feel like I could have done better overall myself, um, but it did dominate the tournament. But yeah, like one of the big factors with that was just gonna be like, what are the best players choosing to bring? And a
Mhm.
lot of them chose Gardevoir, right? So that's gonna definitely be a big impact on the deck's success. But yeah, right outside of the top 8, there is a little bit of everything going down through the top 32. And
I'm actually kinda curious now. I'm looking back at, like, old EUIC junior division results to see, like, who are the people who have won ICs in juniors. Kaya won 2 in juniors, but she, I don't think, won 1 ever in seniors. Reagan won 1 in juniors, but I don't Reagan won 2 in juniors, but I don't think ever won 1 in seniors. He got 2nd in seniors to Isaiah.
Mhm. Yeah, and then got second at the last NAIC before he aged up to Rune, I think.
No, that was Isaiah.
No, the last NAIC, the one before he aged before Reagan aged up.
Oh. Oh, you're right. You're
Rune,
totally
yeah,
right. Yeah, 2022. Yep, you're right. Yeah, dang, 2nd twice. That's tough.
never lucky.
Never lucky.
I feel like in that factor, they should probably count worlds, like winning an
Sure.
IC or greater. So then Kaya's on track still because Kaya won in juniors and won
Yeah, and
worlds in
then 1
seniors.
Worlds and Seniors. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
Kyle will do it first.
yeah. All right. Well, I don't know if there's any other decks that you wanted to take a look at. I just really want to highlight those unique Gardevoir builds,
Yeah, I
the
don't
more
think
unique
so.
Gardevoir builds.
It was a lot of Lost Box and Gardevoir in day 2, kind of moving to the top. Really, Gardevoir's tournament.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
let's
Gardevoir
recap
built
our
it up.
predictions from the event. So, what our first prediction was how many decks in top 8 would have Blood Moon Ursa Luna? Azul said 3. Your boy said 2.
There was two with the two lost
Exactly
boxes.
2.
Yeah, unlucky.
Yeah, and yeah, I was pretty far off on this next one though. Most played Twilight Masquerade a spec in top 32. By and far unfair stamp from Azul is the
Yeah,
correct choice. I went with the Legacy Energy. Lugia dominated day 1, did fall off a little bit in day 2, still was okay, but yeah, didn't have a similar tournament to what it had just had in the Japan Championships, right?
yeah, not quite. And then our last prediction was,
No, we
or I
have
guess
2
we have two
more.
more. Yeah, higher finish, Blissey or Festival lead, and I don't know. Did either of them make day two?
uh,
I would hope one of them made day two.
I don't think it was Festival lead, buddy.
Well, hang on, we can go to statistics.
No, I'm gonna go to cards and type in Blissey. That'll be way
Neither of
faster.
them made day two. Greninja
Mm.
made day two. Golden Go made day two. No Festival lead. No Blissey. Double wrong, I guess, on this one. No one's
S-
right.
No, that's not true because
Oh,
someone got 290th with something, right? So someone out there, if you
wait,
placed
isn't
in
this
like
is
the
not
top,
all of day two?
it is all of day 2,
Oh,
but
but we're wondering the highest.
yeah, highest
Oh,
finish.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. Someone could have gotten 1200th. That's probably the highest placing festival lead. If
Yeah,
you
whoever
played festival
knows.
lead or Blissey at NAIC, let us know in the comments where you finished. We'll try to figure out who that
Yeah,
the highest placing festival lead or Blissey player was.
I assume we were just like talking towards day two, but I guess you're not wrong. And then the last prediction we had was highest Dragapult finish. I predicted top four, which was not even close. And you predicted what, top 16, which
It's
is
pretty
also a
close.
whiff.
Well,
Not close enough though.
I guess do you call towards deck a Charizard deck or a Dragapult deck?
He wasn't in top
He
16, so it doesn't
wasn't,
matter.
but I'm saying I was
But like,
close,
but
buddy.
actually, yeah. What would you call towards deck?
It
It's not a
probably
drag. It's a
is.
Charizard deck.
It probably is a Charizard deck. Yeah,
But is it a Charizard deck that's only as good as it is because of Dragapult?
possibly.
I guess we'd have to ask Tord. Tord, moving forward,
Wait,
would you
hold
cut the
up, hold
Dragapult
up,
from your
hold up,
Charizard deck, or
hold
would
up.
you increase? Go ahead.
Is this a Reggie? Is this a Dragapult deck?
No, it's a Regidrago deck.
But what attacker are you using,
You
buddy?
gotta have Dreepy, bro. Where are the Dreeps? No Dreep?
Wait, it's not a Dreepy deck. It's a Dragapult deck.
Yeah, but you gotta have Dreepy to become the Dragapult. Otherwise, you're never becoming the Dragapult. Next time I'm
Well,
gonna add, like, we're gonna do a prediction. I'm gonna add, like, a Dipplin to my deck just so I can win the prediction.
oh my gosh.
It actually, like, whenever you think about, like, doing something, like, I don't know if you ever had, like, I don't know. I remember I did one back in the day where I added a stage 2 Dragonite to my deck because someone bet me I wouldn't be able to top cut a League Cup with a dead card in my deck.
I
Um,
remember I did something. I played a Dark Integral Gaming deck to a league challenge one time for something with my stream. I think back in the day,
how'd you do?
I won like two. I went 2-4. I think
Ooh, okay, that's not bad. That's not
it was
bad.
it was a DNC deck. I remember it. DNC EX.
Let's go. All right. Well, that was NAIC Hope tournament, biggest tournament ever. I guess we didn't really mention that. Yeah, biggest tournament outside of Japan, of course. Biggest tournament of all time outside of Japan. Actually, I was on like a kind of like I don't know, interview slash podcast with some Chinese players a couple days ago, and talking about their format, where they're at, and they wanted to ask me some questions about like
Because they're, like,
NAIC, like
catching up to us, right?
yeah, and like moving to Worlds. They're gonna have to play in our format, but their format's not gonna be Worlds format yet. They're just getting Palkia and Arceus. They're getting Palkia without Radiant Greninja though, which will be something.
Ooh.
They're currently with like Mew VMAX ADP and like Ice Rider are like their some of their big decks. Um and oh man, I literally just lost my train of thought of where I was going with this. What were we just talking about before I just mentioned this? How
The
did I lose my
size of
train of thought about it?
tournaments.
Oh yeah, so they're basically regional size tournaments are like 2,000 players. Their IC level tournaments, they have like 4 of them a year. It's like 5,000 players.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and he was saying that they do a lottery system, and, they could definitely have more than that, but, that's kinda where it caps. I think he was saying it's like
Wow.
5,000 players is how many players. And they play best of 1 the
Could you
whole
go
way through.
compete over there?
Apparently, yeah, that's what they said. You can just enter the lot anyone can enter the lottery system. I was like, "That's something I wanna do. That's definitely something I wanna do."
Dude, the squad
Um,
goes to China? Hold up.
and we pretty yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'd wait for them to catch up to our format. That'd
Nah,
be
dude, we
sometime
go back
next
and
year.
play the broken
I'd be
deck
kinda
that we
down.
never got to play from some past format or something.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't so they're yeah, like I said, they're about to get Palkia and Arceus. Palkia without Radiant
It's
Greninja
so
sounds
interesting
interesting.
that because they, like, are getting,
And they're just
they
getting their first like Mew was like 30% of the meta at their last big
yeah.
tournament. They're just getting Drapion this set as well, I believe. So they
Wow.
don't have any Mew counters. That's why
But it's
Mew's been
so
so
interesting
popular.
because, like, when we played that format, DTE Mew didn't exist. Like, nobody played it, but
Yeah.
someone could have played it, right?
They get to build on where we were. And
Well, I guess
or
DTE wasn't out yet.
no, I guess you're right. Yeah, not quite yet, right?
Yeah. No, it
Yeah.
wasn't.
They get to build on where we were, but it's also a little bit different because their cards release in like a different staggered amount. Like I said, they're going to get Palkia in this next set that they're getting, but there's no Radiant Greninja, which is sounds like Palkia is worse. That sounds like bad Palkia. Like I don't know. Maybe Palkia's pretty good though, so maybe it'll be enough.
Yeah, but Radiant Greninja might be, like, the best card of all time, dude.
That's true. They have to go through Archeops Lugia as well at some point, which I
Hopefully, they don't have it for 6 months like we did.
yeah, that'll be unfortunate. Their cards are getting released at a more rapid rate because they
Are
will
they, like,
eventually
trying to
catch up
catch
to us.
us
I think.
up?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the plan is that they will eventually catch up to us. They're not going to always be behind a ridiculous amount. So their cards are getting released at a more rapid rate. So they definitely want to experience 6 months of broken Lugia, one of the worst formats of all time. But yeah, but I thought that was interesting. Like, getting to talk to them was cool. And
Is there a way anyone could watch that VOD if they wanted to see that discussion? Do you know?
um, I'll try
I
and find
tuned
it.
in for a
Yeah.
little bit, but I didn't get to watch all of it.
Yeah, I'll try and find it. I'll
You
try and
should
find it.
upload it to your, like, 2nd channel or something if you can get it.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. I should try and do that for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on. But before we get to everyone's favorite segment, we do have to take a moment to thank our amazing sponsor, Dragon Shield, for supporting us here at the Uncommon Energy Podcast. Of course, Dragon Shield makes some of the best card gaming and tabletop gaming products on the market. We love them for their sleeves. We both used Dragon Shield sleeves this weekend, as well as with every tournament that we play. I was rocking with the brand new Anniversary Special Edition, which is a very nice blue with like a silver interior, a dual matte style. They felt great. Definitely, I'm glad they sent me 2 boxes because I used the one here, and I'll have another backup set. I guess I didn't only play 6 rounds in day 1, so I can still use the the ones I already have opened on a different deck for, like, a local or something like that, but, what'd you go with this weekend for NAIC Azul?
Had the yellows, matte yellows. Felt good as always. And yeah, always appreciate Dragon Shield being a sponsor of the podcast. Check them out, dragonshield.com. Link, of course, will be in the description. You can use code UEPOD, get yourself 5% off, and directly support us here on the podcast.
And with that being said, we'll move on to everyone's favorite segment of the podcast, Guess That Flavor Text, where each week Azul or I picks a card, reads the flavor text from it, and has the other host try to guess which Pokemon is featured on that card. If you get it correct without using any of the lifelines available, you get 4 points. And for each lifeline used, you do lose a point. The 3 lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and read an attack name. We are currently sitting at 24-20, myself ahead in that race. But Azul's got an opportunity here. He could tie things up with a 4-point spike this week. How are you feeling, Azul?
I don't know. I'm feeling. I guess I'm never feeling too confident, but there's always an opportunity here. I guess for sure. Yeah, big shout to I remember last time I gave him a shout out, but yeah, Tim and Games for managing the Google Doc that has all the results on it. I just realized that not only does it have the results with the points and everything, but also the lifelines used during each episode that a lifeline was used.
Yep.
So yeah, appreciate the in-depth analysis of the guess that flavor text. Actually hadn't realized when I had looked at the doc before. I didn't realize that was on here as well.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, shout outs to Tim
Um,
and Games for that. But yeah, I've got a
I'm
card for
ready.
Azul. Yeah, you
Ready
ready
with
to
it.
go?
Yep, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. It uses the fine hair that covers its body to sense air currents and predict its enemies' actions.
All right. So I was watching the VGC finals this weekend, and I can't remember the name of the Pokemon. But it has hair all over its bodies. It's all over its body, and it looks like muscles. What is the
Did
name
you
of that
watch
Pokemon?
the VGC
It's
finals
like
on stream?
yeah, I did.
Oh, that's funny.
And we also like I it made yeah I was
That was probably a
interested in
pretty
watching it.
entertaining watch because, you
Yeah,
probably
I
had
know
no
so
clue what was
little.
going on.
I was picking up on what was happening a little bit, and I was like asking questions to the chat. Um, And then, I was like, I may as well like watch this and like stick around and watch the end ceremony, see if there's any reveals for next season and stuff like that. And the only thing they revealed was that NAIC would be in New Orleans again next year. I was hoping for a little bit more like they did last year, but
Yeah.
hopefully it releases sooner than later. But there was that Pokemon that evolves from is it Impidimp?
Mm,
Impidimp, and then Morgrim. Is it Morgrim? And then the last one is I don't remember the last one. What is it called?
Grim Snarl.
Grimmsnarl, and it has hair all over its body. I don't know if this is that Pokemon because you said fine hair, and Grimmsnarl's hair doesn't look that fine.
Yeah.
But
That's
then
some
when you
pretty
see
coarse hair
some
if you ask me.
give me the flavor text one more time, and then I think I'm gonna have to use some lifelines.
Sure. It uses the fine hair that covers its body to sense air currents and predict its enemies' actions.
So it sounds like it is some kind of flying Pokemon, because it senses air currents. I don't know. Let's just go with what set the card is from. Let's start there.
All right, we're going old school here, buddy. This card is from Neo Discovery.
Dude. All right, so this should theoretically knock a lot of cards off my list, but I don't like actually know Pokemon generations that well. But this is like Gen 1, right?
Gen 2.
All right. So Gen 2,
Gen 1 or Gen 2?
dude, this is Gen 2 flying Pokemon, air currents, hair. For some reason I was like thinking Swablu, but I'm pretty sure Swablu is not a Gen 2 Pokemon. You said Neo Discovery?
Neo
All right,
Discovery.
what stage is the card?
It is a stage 1.
Well, Altaria, Pidgeot, they have feathers, not hair. I don't know. Give me an attack name. I just got to go use them all. Hope for something here.
Psychic.
I don't know. Oh, is it? I was gonna say, is it Zatu? But once again, it's like a bird. It has feathers. It's an older Pokemon. I don't know if it's Gen 2 old. Fine hair, dude. I have no clue. Psychic. It's probably a psychic Pokemon. They weren't getting too creative back then. Psychic Pokemon had psychic. Um,
It does have one more attack I can give you if you want. No points detracted.
yeah. Oh, with no points subtracted.
No points detracted.
All right, sure. Wait. So you're gonna give me this attack, and I still get to try and guess for 1 point.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, sure.
Bite.
Okay. It's a stage 1 with psychic and bite?
It's true.
Dude, I have no clue. Zatu. Or not, yeah, Zatu, sure.
Zatu. Reasonable guess because that is a Generation 2 Pokemon. I'm pretty sure there is a Zatu card in Neo Discovery, actually.
But I don't think it has hair.
It does not have hair. You locked in a little too tight on the flying type Pokemon
Oh,
thing.
maybe. Okay.
This
Well, why else would you need
Pokemon
no air currents?
is Espeon.
Oh. It has hair instead of fur? I guess.
Apparently.
Well, yeah, don't like some dogs and cats have like hair and some have fur? That's like a
Yeah,
thing,
some
right?
just have skin, bro.
Oh, yeah.
I always thought that was just skin, but
No,
apparently not.
it's a cat, isn't it?
Oh,
Or
dude,
well,
have you ever seen a hairless cat?
yeah, true, true. Espeon the hairless cat. Yeah, I would have never gotten to Espeon. I don't even think I've seen this card before ever. I don't even think I've seen this one.
It is a beautiful card.
It is
Some
a
of
nice
those like
looking one.
old school Wizards of the Coast artworks just hit different, you know.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. All right. Well, no points for me this week.
I
Chip
thought you
throwing
could have
me
gotten in there.
the. I don't think you thought that at all. Actually, I think you're giving me a hard one on purpose. You're trying to maintain your lead, Chip, and I'm gonna fight back next week for sure. You're not getting anything too easy from me.
I always give you something that I think you could deduce. I
I
thought
don't
once
think
you got to
so.
I thought like old school and then the psychic attack would help you. I didn't expect you to lock super hard in on the
Why
air
does Espeon
current.
need to know air currents, bro? Like, what is that
Air
gonna do for
to
Espeon?
predict its enemy's action, dude. Like think about psychic, like I don't know. I
Oh,
think that was reasonable
I thought it was like two different things. Like to sense air currents, and then also uses it to predict its enemy's actions, or the
and
air current.
predict. Yeah.
Okay, sure, sure, sure. Thought about it a little bit differently. It's all right. It's all right. I've, covered a lot of ground recently over the last couple months, and we'll continue to move forwards and push for that lead eventually.
Yeah. Doubt. All right. Well, we've talked about NAIC. We had the guess that flavor text. Let's move on to the world's tournament structure. An announcement that Pokemon put out. I guess not really an announcement, but just like an update to the website. They put some more information about what is going to be happening at the World Championships. Cool to see that they're releasing stuff like this pretty early, right after NAIC. Get it out there, let people start preparing, right? So I
Yep.
do like to
Yep.
see that. I would like to see some information about next season as well pretty soon, but we'll see if that happens or not before Worlds.
I think we'll
Hopefully,
definitely get it. I think we'll definitely get it before Worlds. I think they've been on a pretty good track of getting better about information release. So the question is just like when, how long before Worlds, not if it will be before Worlds. Assuming that the season is going to start like a month after Worlds, like it usually does.
all right. And yeah, let's just break it down. Um, I guess just like a reminder for everyone, there's the chart here about the World Championship points qualification, like how people qualify from each region. Players in Japan, South Korea, China, and Asia Pacific regions are awarded differently. They're not eligible for championship points. I actually saw someone say Kaito, who just got top four at NAIC, doesn't have his Worlds invite.
Yeah, two. Yeah, from Japan, he has like 900 championship points though. Two top eights this season at ICs,
Yeah,
I believe, right? Yeah.
I mean, it's like he technically earned championship points, but they just go to the void, right? Like he didn't earn, like they're
Yeah.
not tracked even, right? He's not in the rankings.
Yep. Yep.
Kind of a bummer.
Which is like another reason that kind of sucks that we're on different systems, or like you can't opt into a different system, right?
Yeah.
Like it would be kind of like I feel like Kato has earned a Worlds invite through the TPCI system. Should get a Worlds invite. I don't know. It feels a little weird.
Um, but yeah, there's three different levels of invitation as well. The tier one invite, which awards people travel award plus a round one buy in addition to their world's invitation. The tier two invite, which gives you a travel stipend plus your world's invite, and then tier three, which is just the base level invite, the bare minimum. Which is what the majority of people will have. Azul did lock up the top 16 spot, so he'll be getting a travel award, which is $2,000. I think
I think
2,500, something like that.
2000, yeah, in
And then the
region.
tier two invite gets a travel stipend, which is $1,000.
Yeah, to be honest, I completely forgot tier 2 invites were a thing until someone reminded me about it at Stockholm when we were just kind of talking about
Yeah,
the standings for everything. The tier 2 invites honestly feels out of place. I don't know, it feels weird. I guess it was maybe like they had
it's
like
just
a
an
little bit.
extra thing.
Yeah, I feel like they maybe just had extra money in the budget. They're like, okay, what can we do for the players? Which of course is kind of cool. Um, I think with how competitive the game is getting, I'd love to see the tier 1 invites expand to like top 32 next
Well,
season
it's
or
something
something.
we've talked about before, like wanting there to be a little something else. I think it
Play
definitely
for,
feels
yeah.
it obviously feels bad for the people who like in the US and Canada are in the 17th to 22nd because they're just outside of the top 16. A round one buy is so valuable at Worlds now with this new structure that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
So missing out on that is definitely a bit of a bummer. Not getting a full travel award, a bit of a bummer, but $1,000 is not too bad. And I guess a consolation prize for being close, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So it's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about this tournament structure. So the number of Swiss rounds will be determined by attendance, with junior, senior, and masters division play split between 2 days. And we're just going to talk about kind of the most likely result here is that there's going to be between 513 and 1,024 players. I think that's what most people are assuming the number of players at this tournament is going to be. There's a chance we could be
Yeah.
over 1,025, but I think more than likely under 1,024 is what we should expect for Worlds, which would still make it the largest world championships of all time.
Yeah, I think that's probably like currently I saw someone make a post. I think it was maybe Cal Connor saying there was like 1,018 or something between all the TPCI regions.
Yeah,
That's
not
not including
including Asia.
Japan. Yeah, it's not including Japan or China. But most likely not everyone's going to show up from every region. So probably will be under the 1,000 mark, which means be 8 rounds day 1 to 3 rounds day 2, which I don't understand why it's not just following the normal tournament structure of 9 into it would be 9 to 6 if we're over 800, 9 to 5 if we're under 800.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm confused. I actually just don't know why it's not more rounds.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. There was actually a bit of a discussion happening on Twitter, I think between Chris Szymanski and Jake Gearhart about this. Jake was kind of, the same thing as you, wondering why, right? Why would we change this?
Yeah, the whole
Whenever we
year
have a
we did
current
it.
system in place that has done good. Christopher made a comment, and I don't know if this is probably not the exact reason why, but it could definitely be a factor. Like, um, day one, staff at NAIC was in the hall for 15 hours. Like, that's a long, long day for volunteers to be having to stick around all day, right?
Mhm. So wait, but I mean, does that mean this is gonna be the structure moving forward then? Because like, if it's not, then, like, what it's like, I don't understand the
Yeah, why are we changing it just for Worlds and not the rest of the
yeah,
year?
'cause,
And
yeah,
there's a possibility. I mean, what if they did change to something like this next season?
I feel pretty bad. You basically have to go undefeated in
Yeah,
the, like we have 2,000 people and we have 12 rounds, you basically have to go 12-0. You
yeah.
cannot drop a match. So that'd feel pretty bad. Good time to retire. So, it does happen.
I guess
On the
before we talk
sidelines.
much more about the thoughts on the structure, it is worth noting as well that um where is it? After all Swiss rounds are completed, the top 8 competitors and all other competitors with equal number of match points as eighth place
The
will advance to
maximum.
an asymmetrical top cut single elimination bracket to determine the winner of each event. So this is something I think everyone has kind of been wanting for a while. Is the asymmetrical top cut? They've tried it out in the past. They did it at Worlds in 2022. They didn't do it in 23, but it looks like they're bringing it back this year. It feels like overwhelmingly positive feedback from people as far as, uh, you know, everyone seems to like the fact that they do asymmetrical cut.
Honestly, having, like, thought about I would prefer an extra round of Swiss as opposed to asymmetrical cut, personally. I would just want,
Sure.
like,
Well,
another round of
especially if they're only
Swiss.
giving you 11 rounds of Swiss.
Yeah, but, like, even if we added asymmetrical cuts to the current ICs and regionals, I would just prefer another round of Swiss, I think, or a top 16, like a clean top 16 cut. I guess asymmetrical cut is, like, trying to mimic top 16 to an extent, but I would prefer just, like, a clean top 16. Um, you have a better idea of you knowing what you're playing for, because it would feel pretty bad. You could get 3rd seed going into cut, and then there's, what, 6 other people, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, that forces the 3rd seed to play another round. Um, I don't know, I just like the idea of, like,
It would
things
have to
being
be
a
a
little bit
lot of people for third seed to have to play, right? Because it'll be the lowest seeds
well, it
will
doesn't
be
matter. If there's just 6 people with the same points as 8th seed, they all get to play.
what? No, the way it works is if there's 9 people, right?
Yeah,
If the asymmetrical cut is for 9 people, eighth and ninth play for eighth place
and
to
if there's
then play
10
in the
yeah,
cut.
yeah, and if
That's
there's
how it
10
works.
and if there's 10, then 7th
Mm,
and
yeah,
11th, and
yeah.
if there's 12, and then 13, and then 14, and then
That's what I'm saying,
15,
there'd have to
and then
be a
16.
lot of people for
Well,
there
I
to
don't
for
that doesn't
3rd
even
place
seem
to
that
have to play.
unreasonable. Like, if 8th seed just has, I don't know, 30 match points, and then 6 other people have 30 match points. And also, there'll be like, we've never really seen the system play out too much, but that would change how people would ID and whether they would play it or not play it out in
Yeah,
these
there was
final
actually a
rounds.
big discussion, I think a lot of people saying that now ties are, like, useless and, like, you should be avoiding ties at all costs.
I don't
And
know if that's
obviously,
true, though.
winning is better than tying, but yeah, I agree, I don't think that's true at all.
What if you because like, if that gives you enough points to give you the flexibility to ID or if you get a tie in day 1, and then in day 2, because of that tie, you have the flexibility to ID to tie 8th seed, you're gonna
Yeah.
that's an advantage all of a sudden, right? Like, I just kinda like the idea of knowing what you're playing for a little bit more. This feels like it just like I don't know. I've never really played in an asymmetrical tournament besides maybe online tournaments. And I don't even remember how those really went, but I like the idea of like a top 16 or an extra Swiss round or just something that you know what you're playing for and you know what you need to do. And I guess at the end of the tournament, towards the end of the tournament, you probably will know what you need to do to either tie or be guaranteed into cut or tie eighth seed. But then all of a sudden, like you could be like fourth seed and be like, well, now I have to play another round. Like kind of, I don't know. But like I guess if you're playing top 16, you have to play another round, but you already know you have to play another round, right? Like you know if you're going in that fourth seed and it's a top 16, you still have you have to play another round.
It's
So I
pretty
like the idea of
difficult.
the for sureness, you know? I don't know.
It's kinda difficult to know what the breakdown is gonna look like here because, like, this like, how many match points you're gonna need to get top 8 at this,
Yeah.
because, like, the Swiss calculator that everyone uses for Limitless, right? Um,
But you could theoretically use it, right?
well,
But
potentially,
I don't
but the
know.
problem is
It's
that
not
56 people get a round 1 bye.
true. So there's a round one buy involved. And then I think like I would have to imagine as you get closer later in the rounds, like people like playing it out or not playing it out or tying or not tying, like that'll change, right? Just based on the possibility of making cut
Yeah.
or trying to tie eighth seed for sure. I don't know.
I mean, you'll probably
It'll be interesting.
need my prediction would be if it's 11 rounds total, like 9 and 2 probably is what you need.
I hit him with the 11-0, bro. I'm not trying to play in a
But
play
it's
in
like the minimum is what I'm saying, right?
sure,
Like, I
yeah,
don't even
yeah.
like, I don't think 8-2-1's getting there, you know?
Eights, yeah, I have no clue. Especially if we're like at
It
the
is
higher
hard
end of
it's
it,
just
probably
hard to
not,
know.
right? Yeah, if we're
Yeah.
at the higher end of it, we're just under 1,024. 11 rounds is so few rounds. I don't know. I don't know. It just feels weird to play so few rounds when we've like been playing as many rounds as we have for such a long time, and the more rounds feels better. I feel like I don't know. You have to win less games, I guess, to make cut, but you have less opportunity to lose.
I will say,
I
like,
don't know.
Pokemon does
Nine and
generally do,
two.
like, a good amount of experimenting with worlds, it feels like, and Worlds has always kind of been, I mean, in the past, it's been a very different structure from every other tournament, right? You
I
have the
will say sometimes Worlds feels a little gimmicky compared to something like an IC. It
Yeah.
it almost feels like ICs feel more solid in their format and like what you have to execute on to progress in the tournament. Where for Worlds, based on the size of the tournament and these kind of weird structures that we've never used before pop up, it feels more gimmicky sometimes. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Day
I
2
don't
of
know.
Worlds, for, like since that's if we look at the past structure, right, where you have people who qualify for day 1, you have people who qualify for day 2, they bring over a certain amount of people from day 1 into day 2, and then day 2 is, like, the real Worlds tournament, right, where,
Yeah.
like, someone day 1 of Worlds, you can do as good as you want, but no one's gonna become world champion at the end of day 1. You gotta play in
Mhm.
day 2 to become world champion.
Yeah.
So day 2, like, the real, quote, unquote, "start of Worlds," like, where we're gonna crown a champion, um is like, in the past has been like, I mean, what was it last year? Like, uh, 200 people or something like that? It was less than that, right?
That's not a ton. I don't remember exactly how many.
Worlds 170
Yeah.
people. So it's like just basically like this massive league cup with all the best players in the world, right? Because you only play, uh 8 rounds of Swiss into top cut, so you gotta go 602, 611, something like that to get in. Do you
Yeah.
what was your record going into cut?
611, 611, yeah.
611, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know, it just feels weird overall. I'm not, like, a
so
big
I
fan of it.
I mean, I definitely think I like this a little bit more than that system.
Yeah, I kinda like I think I agree, yeah. I mean, actually, going into Worlds this year, once we heard about the new structure, no day 2 auto invites, I did like the idea of it more. I was like, "Well, it makes sense, like, we're all going to Worlds, let's put us all on the same page." The tiered out invites seem fine, if you really have that good of a season, you kind of bypass that first round, or you get like a slight advantage. It's a decent advantage. You get an advantage by getting a round one bye, only for a couple players, not for a whole ton of players. But
Yeah, but that advantage is made even greater when there's less rounds, right? 1 round
yeah,
for free is less impactful when there's 14 or 15 rounds, but when there's only
yeah,
11 rounds, getting one of those rounds for free is massive.
yeah, it definitely is a bigger deal for sure. I don't know. I just want to just wait and see how it plays out, and that'll have to be when I'll be able to like truly critique it and give my full
They
thoughts. To
do
be
say at
honest.
the bottom here, event structure subject to
All right,
change.
let's change it. Actually, let's change it. They said it. Let's do it. I don't actually want to experience this at all. Just give us the standard format. I'm down. Change it up. I believe in you. Let's do it.
And as
Like I
far
said,
as like going from day one into day two, normally like in our current system, right, it's 13 match points or wow, 19 match points moves on from day one to day
yeah,
two with nine Swiss rounds. For this, it is going to be
18, right?
18 match points necessary, which is a
Six
record
two.
of 6-2
Yeah, and I
or
guess like that's where people
503.
that I guess that's where people feel like the tie becomes like kind of irrelevant, right? You tie one of the, but like going into day two, that's where it'll still make a difference potentially, right?
Yeah, see, so that's why I think it's different. I think in the old worlds format, it was the same type of thing, right? They would have a match point threshold to get to for day two. If you get to 6-2, if you got to 6-0, they just removed you from the tournament. You didn't even
Yeah.
continue playing.
Mhm.
But in this instance, that's not true. You're going to keep playing because your match points will carry over into day two, right?
Yeah.
Because in the past, it would be day one, and then we stop, and then day two is a whole new tournament. You can change decks and everything as well if you want to. But for this, it's going to be one continuous tournament throughout. I'm imagining you can't change decks between day one and day
No,
two
I
because
don't
your
think you
your
can,
your
no.
record will carry over and everything, right? So it's going to be a
Yeah.
continuation of the same tournament. Um, so yeah, if you tie in round one in the old format, that would be like really bad because you're just it basically is like making it harder for both of the people to make it into day two. But
Well, you
a
could tie
tie
it
in
3
a tie
times.
in round one right now is like probably fine because I mean, it's still annoying, you would rather win, but, it's not like you have to go out of your way to not tie like you would in the old system because that record's gonna carry over into day two, and that,
Or it
like,
could make
match
it
point could be the difference between you making top cut or not, right?
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, so yeah, it means a little bit more now for sure. I mean, like, even in the old system, though, you could tie 3 times, right? You could go 503, and then you'd make day 2,
Sure,
but
sure, but so, like,
less predictable
going
record to end up with, I guess.
yeah, and people did end up with that record, but,
I guess once you hit get the 2 ties, that's when you just, like,
but
ID at the last round.
yeah, which could happen, but, like, you run the risk of getting up paired or down paired, right? I think, like, in the old system, what you would rather do is, like, someone gets the point, you do a gentleman's or whatever it is based on the
Yeah.
the board state, someone gets the win in that round, and then that way, you have if it's 8 rounds, you still have 7 rounds to get your 6 wins, whereas if you tie, you now have to win or tie every single round the rest of the day, right?
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, we're just gonna have to play it and see how it goes. I don't think they're gonna change anything. It says subject to change, but I doubt that's happening.
Yeah, I doubt it
Um,
too.
yeah, I'm now at this point, I guess I'm just, like, looking forward. I mean, we got so much time. I'm looking forward towards the next season information, to be honest. That's what I'm looking forward towards the most, but I mean, we have 2 months until this tournament. We got a new set coming out. Like, yeah, I mean, could start grinding tomorrow, but I'll be streaming.
You should stream, matches with your chat or something of the new format,
Not right now.
deck building.
No
Oh,
shot.
well, dude, I guess Azul's not winning worlds this year.
But I wasn't supposed to top 8 or top 4 last year. We still got there, though, so
Yeah, because you just played Mew, carried by
broken
the
deck.
deck.
Hey, man, I don't know how much effort I'm putting into competing moving forward, so if I get pushed out by too many kids being too competitive, that's fine with me. I'm okay with that. I am
Dang, bro.
content with going to the sidelines and watching the game grow and become
Wow.
taken to the next level. We'll see where it is, though. I mean, hey, I got top 16 this season without going to any locals, so they're not pushing me out yet. Gotta work. They have to try a little bit harder.
He's not dead yet. Alright, you got anything else you wanna add, buddy?
No, no, I don't think I got anything. Send us home, Chip.
Yeah, thanks so much to everyone for listening and supporting us here at the podcast. If you do want to show a little extra support, feel free to leave us a like, a comment, a review, subscribe here on the YouTube channel, follow us wherever you listen on your podcasting platforms. Those things go a long way in helping us out and supporting the content that we are making here. And if you want to stay up to date with us, the best place to do it is over on X. You can follow myself at Chip Ritchie, Azul at Azul_GG. And you can follow the podcast at Uncommon_Energy.
Yeah, appreciate the support as always. As there's no tournaments going on this weekend, so best of luck with your PTCG Live ladder grinds. We'll catch you all next Wednesday, 7 a.m. Eastern.